live.
Hello, I'm gonna talk really loud, so hopefully my AirPods pick up my sound.
Yeah, you straight up sound pretty bad in my ears,
Well,
unfortunately.
that sucks. My microphone broke. Maybe this is a
Yeah.
sign from God that this podcast, I mean, the fact that it hasn't taken off might be a sign, but this might really be a sign.
Wow, maybe it's your negative attitude.
I've been in the worst mood the last 2 days.
I've been in a pretty horrible mood as well. I'm also just in this, like, I feel like with the wedding and everything going on in my life, it's like I am just purging money left and right. Like, money is just coming out of my bank account, and issues on the farm just keep flowing in. And it's like, when is the floodgates? When are they going to stop? I don't even know what the saying is. But so you got the keys to your new apartment?
I did. I picked them up on the first of the month. I don't have movers coming until next Saturday, so it's the weird in between time where I have two places in New York. It's also been
Now,
freezing
have you
raining the
like,
last 2 days, so that's been really great.
yeah, it's horrible here. I'm a little afraid that my internet's going to cut out just because we've been getting like floods. Not the floods wouldn't cut it out, but like the pouring rain that causes the floods.
Yeah,
Um,
mine's really loud. Hopefully, I can edit that out.
like, have you been into the apartment? Like, do you just go and you just look at it, or are you just like,
When I got my keys, I went in, but I have not been back since.
is it weird knowing that like that's just sitting there in an empty room waiting for you?
No.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, our brains must work differently then.
no, I'm not too worried about it. Everything else in my life is insane. So just like don't even have the mind capacity to think about that empty room right now.
Okay, well, this is a therapy session now. What's going on? Why is,
Just work and life. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yesterday, I just walked home and I cried and I called mom, and mom was trying to solve every problem, which is not what I needed. And I had to get up, and yesterday I had a 12-hour day. Today I had 7 meetings. It was a lot. It was just a lot. Work kind of sucks right now.
I understand. Yeah, I'm at the point where like work's at so much and I'm losing just so much money that it's like, it's okay. None of this is real. None of this
I
is real.
yeah,
I
I
almost,
honestly I'm getting that way too with um money for my apartment, and I'm like I paid 2 rents and the security deposit, and I have to buy stuff for the apartment, and I too am just like throwing money out the window. I'm sure to a lesser degree than you, but
it's okay. The one thing I was worried about is them like not renewing my operating loan or something. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't know if they just, because I haven't had it very long, and like, they like really scrutinized your finances. And like, so since the price of stuff's like really down, like I know for some farmers, like they like kind of start to like micromanage what you're doing on the farm so that you're like less of a security risk for them. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be an issue this year, which is good, which I guess maybe they have more faith in me than I have in myself at the moment.
your hair looks great, by the way.
That's the thing. That's what's saving me. This is the thing.
Meanwhile, I look like
So,
a wet
like,
shoe.
no, it was like, it's amazing what hair color can do for you, because like I was just like hating what I looked like just for weeks on it. Actually, months. I've been hating the way I look for a long time, just my hair in general. Because like I used to always get blonde highlights like every single time, and that's just like who I was. It was my identity. It was pretty much what my hair color was when I was like in high school. So when I started getting highlights, and then my hair, like as I've aged like 10 years later, which seems insane, it's like started to grow and darker. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to do like a balayage or root melt situation where it's like I tried to transition from this like bright blonde to like a more muted, dirty blonde, more natural color. But I've been doing this transition for like 3 years now, and I just always hate my hair. And it's like I come out of the appointment, I spend as much money as I would have spent on highlights to get this like transition thing. and I don't like it. And so someone that you and I both know who we did gymnastics with as kids, she's a hairdresser, and she had posted the other day that she had like a appointment that was available, and I was like, because I also like I wanted to go just my normal hairdresser, but she books out like a couple months in advance, and I am never prepared, and I also never know what my schedule is going to look like. So it kind of works out when there's like just like an open appointment. So I went, and now this hairdresser is in like a more upscale area, and the sticker price of my hair really shocked me. Just because it was a lot more than a small town price. However, I am like thrilled with the hair, and I'm really happy with the hair. I think had I seen the price and also wasn't thrilled with the hair, I would have been also a crying girl in my car. But then, so it was like, loved the hair, sticker price shock. And then I went and I got a coffee, and like the lady's like, what's your name? And I was like, Zoe. And she's like, wait a second, I follow you on Instagram. And then I was like, I'm a celebrity. So it was like really just like a lot of emotions. And then I come home, and JD and Dad are like, John Deere Tech was out. They've confirmed that like we've tried everything. We have to get this pump. The pump might at earliest come in a month, which is after planting that will have started. So I can rent a tractor for around $30,000 this spring, or I could buy a tractor for about $150,000, or we can keep running this one and hope that we're not completely destroying the transmission / like run it until it just breaks down and then rent one, which are all bad options, but it is what it is. I'm sorry, I don't know how I transitioned from like, thank you. What I should have said when you said you liked my hair, I should have just said, thank you. And then kept going on, but I just spiraled into a dump about
it
me.
is. It's good. I like your hair a lot. I should get my
I
hair
like
cut.
it too.
I haven't got my hair
And
cut
like
in a long time.
since we had the bridal shower, it's like I still have my nails done, which they're actually chipped in like 4 different places. But I was like, I have my hair done, I have my nails done. Like, who is she?
Look at you.
Look at me.
Um,
I have sheep now, a whole new person.
I know, the Kent Family Farm sheep operation. But how did that come to be?
So we've been renting out the pasture. This will be the 2nd year. Basically, like we had a cow-calf herd for a little bit, and then we pared it down to just cows on pasture. We just background them, so spring till fall. And then we were going to do that last year. And basically, when we went out looking for cows, they were like sky high in price, and we were like, I don't really know if we want to risk this much money for this little side hobby we have going on. And someone had approached us and was like, hey, could I just like rent the pasture for some cows that I'm getting? And we were like, yeah, okay, go for it. So he put dairy cows out on the pasture. Well, I think they were steers. I don't even know what they were. I'm pretty sure they were steers, but they were Holsteins. And then this year he went to go do the same thing, and the price is like sky high, and he decided he's going to transition, and he found some sheep, which is their Kalaha, I don't know. My ag credit lender today, actually, like I told her about the sheep, and she comes from a family that like raises sheep, and she knew exactly what the breed was and told me how to pronounce it, and I already forgot how to pronounce it, but gave me like all these sheep facts. I was like, you came here to give me a loan, and now you're teaching me about sheep. But yeah, it's like a whole bunch. Oh, there's a whole bunch of sheep. So there's ewes and there's lambs, and it's so funny. I like posted like, hey, we got sheep, and like whenever I post that like cows are back out on pasture, I get so many people that are like, yes, cows are awesome. We love cows. Give us all the cow content. And when I posted that there were sheep coming, oh my God, everyone was like, sheep suck. Sheep are going to destroy your pasture. Sheep are so mischievous. They're escape artists. And I was like, oh wow, people don't like sheep. And then the sheep got out twice. And so I was like, oh, I understand.
Was it the same sheep that got out, or?
So first, the first sheep that came out, it was like a medium grade sheep, because like there's some big ewes, and then there's some little tiny babies, and there's some like middle sizes.
Size inclusive.
And I would say it was a mid-sized one, and it just jumped out and it got into the feed bunk. So it was out, which like, because the feed bunk had to be blocked off, because like this this pasture was meant for cows. The setup was meant for cows, not for little tiny things that jump and wiggle through things. So it got into the feed bunk, and luckily, like, Tanner and I just happened to go to, like, just check him out. And this guy got out, and so Tanner just scooped him up and brought him back in, which, like, you know when, like, I pick up my dog who's about 60 pounds and she, like, wiggles around? This sheep was really trying to wiggle around with Tanner, but he got it in. And it was so funny because it was, like, most of them are all white, but this one had some spots on it, so it was easy to pick out. And, like, Tanner was already trying to name this thing, and he sent a picture, or I think I sent a picture in our family group chat, and my dad was like, "Do not name him," and Tanner, like, already had a name for him.
Are they
so that happened,
lambs?
and then
What are they?
So they're hair lambs.
What does
So
that mean? You breed
I
them?
think
You breed them for meat?
no hair.
Oh, hair, like HAIR.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so is someone going to shear them in the summer?
I guess. I don't know. I really don't know much about this. It's really funny. I, like, posted, and then the guy who's doing it, like, someone said, like, "Oh, what breed are they?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm gonna have to text the guy." And then he commented and was like, "This is what they are."
That's funny.
He's planning on getting a ram out on pasture
Oh, wow.
at some point to, like, breed them. So, like, he's planning on, like, raising these things and breeding them and everything.
Like year round?
So then, yeah, but, like, our pasture rental's only for
The summer?
like the summer. So I think this is, like, he got the sheep and he's going to, like, find a long-term solution for them.
Oh, he's a sheep
We're just,
farmer
like, this
now.
nice little holding pattern. But so then last night, Tanner and I are, like, wrapping up our evening. There's tornado storm warnings because these storms have been cray-cray. And the girl who lives in the house where this pasture and barns are at calls me, and I was like, I'm getting a call from this girl, which I coach her in cheerleading, and I was like, we have cheerleading tryouts this week, so I didn't know if she just needed a ride or something, but normally she just, like, texts me. So I answer the phone. She's like, "Hey, there's, like, 10 sheep that are out in a cornfield. Should they be out there?" And I was like, no, I'll be there as soon as possible. So basically, Tanner and I jump in the truck, and Tanner's like, "We have 20 minutes before it's supposed to be downpouring on us." And so we get there, and now luckily they're not really in the cornfield. They are just, like, they were in a small area. They're in a larger area in the pasture. It's still not where we wanted them to be at, but they weren't like out running around in the cornfield, which thank goodness. So Tanner and I just, like, wrangled them back in, which, like, they were all little tiny sheep because they just got out, like, one little hole. And so then we just had them go back in through the hole, which was, like, it's kind of funny because it was like, okay, if they know they can get in and out here, I'm not really sure how we're going to secure this. But I threw one more gate up. But the issue is that they're so small and the gates are, like, cattle gates. So I don't know. We need to make a better long-term solution for these sheeps. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's been
I
just
don't
so
know
funny.
anything about sheep, but my friend Jack hooked sheep to the fair, so he knows a little bit about ships, but
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't.
and I just didn't think anyone knew. And then, like, my friend Emily Dotson, she took sheep to the fair, and she, like, commented on my thing, and she's like, "I wouldn't wish sheep upon my worst enemy." Like,
No,
I was like,
the only thing I
no.
can imagine worse than sheep, actually, two things: hogs and poultry.
I would never want to have
I would
hogs
never
or
want to
poultry.
have
And- oh my-
hogs or poultry. We took
the-
backstory. I too was a farm kid once, and Zoe always took dairy beef feeders to our county fair, and I took dairy beef feeders, and then decided one day I wanted to take pigs, and took pigs. And Dad grew up on a hog operation and hated it, and talks frequently how much he dislikes hogs and working with them and smelling them and whatever. He let me take them regardless, but he has, like, I don't know, ingrained in me how terrible it was growing up with a hog operation.
I can only
But then
imagine, 'cause-
Kaylee, Zoe's, like, best friend from high school, is obsessed and to this day works professionally with pigs. So, and it's a personality thing. But he is ingrained in me that it'd be horrible to have hogs, and I think over his dead body would he let you have pigs on his land.
Yeah, well, and I don't really think pigs are like a good pasture
Yeah, they're not like a
animal.
side hobby. You don't like
Yeah.
feed out, 60 head of pigs for fun.
Yeah. Well, and so like, so I was getting my hair done today, right? And the hairdresser that was like at the station next to the girl doing my hair was like, I just want to get chickens because eggs are so expensive, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I didn't want to like butt into our conversation, but
Yeah.
everyone was kind of like generally talking. I was like, I actually know a lot about this because like she didn't know anything about chickens,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is what I know, and I know that you do not want you do not want to like
No,
just get chickens just to save money at
no,
the grocery
they
store.
smell. They're kind of high maintenance. They can get sick very easily, and they just also they just like do stupid things. They
Yeah. Well,
walk
and
on the
like
road and get hit. They like, yeah.
yeah, and like I think obviously like large scale poultry, great. Or if
Oh,
you're a
well, of
farmer, great.
course.
If you're someone who lives in a city and you happen to have a little bit of a backyard, you just to get a few chickens just to give yourself some like fresh eggs, I
Yeah.
don't think
No,
that's the
I mean,
right fit.
obviously, huge fan of the hog industry, huge fan of the poultry industry. I'm talking like small hobby, what we do with, or what Dad and Zoe did with cows previously. No pigs, no poultry,
Yeah, I
no
know.
fun.
Tanner was very much like, well, why didn't you get goats? And I was like, I'm not in charge. Because then people were saying, if you wanted to get that pasture cleaned up, because like we have a few thistle patches, they're like, why didn't you have goats? Which technically you could run goats and sheep together. I
Goats
learned from my
remind me
lady
too
at
much of
Credit.
dogs. Goats are like
Oh,
literal
interesting.
dogs.
Goats are
Kimber
adorable.
took goats, and they were so cute and so dog-like.
Yeah, I know. Also, they're
Mom had
very
two goats.
expensive. Yeah, a guy that I've been hauling grain in, he's been keeping me updated because his grandchildren wanted to take goats to the fair. And he, like, when I was hauling grain one day, he's like, I'm going to get goats. And the next time he's like, I got goats. And then he's like, here's a picture of the
Oh
goats.
my goodness.
And they're expensive. Now, I don't, obviously, I'm thinking if you're like showing them for 4-H, they're probably more expensive than your average run of the mill goat,
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm
Yeah.
an event
How do,
planner
do
in New
they?
York City.
Do they? All I remember is that like when they show them, don't they like dress them up in outfits or something?
No, I don't think they do that anymore, but they used to have like a costume contest. That like not in the regular show, but they always do like a couple fun things. I'm sure they still do it. They do like a jackpot for hogs, and it's just like how they do showmanship, and they do like different types of showing, and one of them was a costume. But
That's
I
so
don't think they
fun.
ever did that once they built the new arena. I only remember them
Okay.
doing that in the old when
Okay.
the hog building. Do they used to have hogs and
Yeah.
goats in there? That's what
Yes.
I
Yeah.
thought.
They had hogs and goats.
And
The
and
sheep
and
stayed in the sheep, I think.
yeah, the sheep stayed in the sheep. They had hogs and goats in a very rundown barn, which with an attached arena. And then yeah, then they built out that new barn. When I was in FFA, I was in FFA when they built it, and we caulked it for them. That's how I learned how to caulk.
Yeah. See, when I was in FFA, we were still raising funds for it.
Yeah.
So we did some fundraising and stuff. It's really interesting to see it too, because like the kind of buildings and like the space you get kind of just depends on like what's big at the moment too. Because like I
Mm-hmm.
remember going back to the fair and like the dairy beef had really taken over the beef barn, and then like at other times the beef has really taken over the dairy beef barn, and
I
they kind of
know.
like it's like if a group of kids gets really into something, it seems like more kids want to show that animal, and so it kind of like kind of
I agree. Like dairy was never a huge thing when I was in high school, but then the few years after, um, not to make this about myself, but um, my FFA advisor Tessa wanted to like put together a dairy judging team, and Ethan grew up on a dairy farm, and Aaron Han grew up on a dairy farm, and then Luke and I were just like smart and had dairy beef feeders, so we were like dairy adjacent. So we like formed a team and we went to state, and it was like kind of a big deal. And from that more people joined the dairy judging team, and then like the dairy program grew at the fair. And back when the dairy farm from our hometown was still operating, they would like let kids like rent out a space, and
Yeah.
because you
Yeah,
don't
because
sell
also
dairy
like,
cattle, so the cattle can stay with
yeah.
the farm, and you would just come on Saturdays and work with the cows, and then at the end of the
Yeah.
fair you be like, here's your Jersey
They
cow
did that with
back.
the alpacas. Yeah, they did that. So like alpacas was never a thing, and I think maybe
Hmm.
by the very end of the fair it started to be a thing. But now it's like a great project for all the like kind of city kids because they just go
Exactly.
out to this farm and they rent them out. They do the whole thing. Like I think that is a great scenario. Like I
Yeah,
just like
honestly, yeah.
for
So
for someone who needs that.
yeah, the alpacas also run by that same Aaron kid I just mentioned. Um, did a similar thing. They like kind of saw what the dairy kids were doing, and they actually, I think, really made it a thing. And you could like rent them, like to do the project. It was like $1, and it was like for $1 you get an alpaca. You get an alpaca. Obviously, it's not like your alpaca, but like you get to
Yeah.
be like, this is my alpaca. And they would do Saturday mornings. You would come out, you'd work with your alpaca. And the thing about alpacas, they essentially do like dog agility at the fair, where like they run through hoops and jump over things and like I don't know, do alpaca things. And I'm just having so many memories. And yeah, and it was nice. It was an opportunity because we live in obviously a rural community, but we have small towns around us where kids don't live on farms, and they could like participate in livestock that way. And I just was laughing, remembering all of the alpacas had bandanas, and then the people showing them also had bandanas. And they like
Oh,
matched their alpaca, and it was just like really cute.
really wholesome.
And
That's
and it was nice,
adorable.
like at the alpaca farm, like they gave everyone a really nice polo, and you matched your alpaca. And you could tell, like, if you were there every Saturday, like you were better at handling your alpaca. So like a lot of times with livestock, it's like who if you can pay the most to win, like not really, but like
Yeah.
really, like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you can go to the best breeders, and
I don't think anyone. I don't
money
think
plays a
anyone.
huge
Yeah.
aspect in who's winning.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would argue with you there.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a little bit of luck in the piglet
And
you
like work and what you're
select.
feeding them,
And
but
exactly, and
yeah.
knowledge on food. I'm like so scared of the ag community like attacking me. But it was nice for these alpaca kids. It's like if you worked with them every Saturday, your hard work really shows off, and you had a good shot at winning if you put the time and work into it. And that's something I can really appreciate.
Yeah. We're gonna have to talk off air after this because I just remember something incredibly sad about the alpaca farm. We'll talk about it later.
Is it like no
Uh,
longer in existence or something?
I think the alpaca people like passed away, but
Oh, that's
we'll talk
terrible.
about.
But
I know it just, but
speaking of alpacas, do you see my little alpaca? Uh,
oh, that's a cute
I
little
do.
alpaca.
It was kind of cool. So this all kind of happened when I was actively involved in FFA 4-H and Junior Fair Board. I was running the show, and it was cool every year. Like the first year was like there were like four alpacas, and then all of a sudden they built this new building, and the alpacas got shoved in with the goats and the hogs, and then alpacas just kept taking up more and more and more real estate, and it was just like kids getting involved, which obviously you love to see.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like you were thinking about like wholesome, we're like doing these things for the kids, and I was like, you know what? I have barn space now. I could rent out my barn space for a kid, and they could just come, and they'd have to pay me to store their animal, but like I'd be willing to do like I have barn space that I'm like I don't know what because like it worked for like one or two cows or like a
Yeah.
couple alpacas or like do chickens are chickens in cages. I mean I guess that's like oh duh no never mind. There's like the whole free range versus like being in cages. All I'm saying is I have space for a few animals, and if some kid in town wants to buy an animal and use one of my barns, hit me up.
Yeah, that's so funny to think about. I haven't thought about alpacas in a long time, but their little bandanas, I'm not kidding, is the cutest thing in the world.
Well, like alpacas are so funny looking, and
They're
it's
so
like they
funny.
don't die at the end of the
No, and
project,
that
you
was the
know?
best part. It's like you watch them do agility, you watch them sit through a hoop, and then also there's people they're educating the viewers of the fair, like, hey, these alpacas are used for their hair, and we, or what is it called? Like their fur? I don't know, the alpaca fur,
Cool.
the wool, and they like show like the things you can make out of it and whatever. And it was just like there is something sad about walking through and seeing 500 pigs and knowing like these will all die on Sunday morning.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like for the cows, it's like, okay, like in cattle farming, they're like, don't get attached. And then it's like, you have to work with these animals all the time. So you obviously get
Yeah.
attached. And like, there's something traumatic about like the Sunday morning because they load them out on Saturday night and like the kids are not in the barns because
Yeah.
they just need to like load all these things out. And so they just like take their halters off and
So
they
sad.
run them in a truck. So then you come to an empty barn and you just see your halter laying at your stall and you're just like, oh, like because it's like you say goodbye the night
Yeah.
before or something, and then it's like then they're just gone. There's something a little
You know
traumatic
what's
about
more
that.
traumatic than that? Well, I accidentally appeared. So I was on Junior Fair Board, and one of the things Junior Fair Board does is recycling. So if you toss something in the recycling, it was mine to deal with. And we recycled really late at night, like 11 p.m. Okay? And so
This is why I never joined the
and
fair board.
so
Like they're like,
Kimber
oh,
and
what do you
I
do? Recycle?
were on the recycling golf cart, and then Kimber was like, "Oh, I left something in my fare box. Like, let me just run into the barn and grab it." And I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna be out here by myself. Hoodlums are gonna attack me." So I go in, and they spray paint the hogs to tell you like where to send them in the chute.
Which goes
And
where?
we watched them like put the lines on our pigs, and that was like so traumatizing. Obviously, year after year, you get used to it, and like it really, for me at least, was only sad maybe like the first couple of years, and then I don't know.
Yeah,
Then I lost my grandparents, and I
yeah.
was like, really, in retrospect, it's fine.
Jesus. Yeah, no, when the sheep came, like Tanner was checking them out and he's like, why do they all have spray paint on them? And I was like, oh, like I guess like this wouldn't be common knowledge for the
Yeah.
random person. And he's like, does it go away? Like, they're all just spray painted blue now with little like blue streaks down their back. And I was like, I'm sure it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean
Like,
it will. It's
it's
gonna
not.
eventually wear off, but I mean it's like you're not gonna like put collars on them,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like
It's like, you just got to keep
it's
track of
just
what
like
you've done.
part of the process. But it is not, I don't want to say traumatizing, but it is like a thing I think a lot of like rural kids go through, and I think it makes us better in a lot of ways. Not better, but like you learn hard processes early. I'm not articulating
Yeah.
myself well. Um,
And like if you do good on your project, you can get up to $3, which you can buy a shredded chicken and a water for it. Which like not anymore. I'm sure those prices have
you got
inflated. With,
$3.
yeah, remember with any of your projects, like for the bookwork part, you could get like an
Oh,
A, B, or C,
yeah, the
and then you get money
vouchers.
for it. And then you go up and you get your $3
I
for your
forgot
A,
you
and you'd be
literally
like
get
ball in.
$3. Um,
Which, but like at
so
the time, I was like, I did like 4 projects one year, and so it was like I got $12. I was like, oh, ho, ho, ho. Look at me go with my $12. I can eat for half a day.
I actually found showing livestock to be incredibly anxiety inducing.
Oh my gosh,
It's like
yes. And I
not
didn't feel like I
something
was set up.
It's not something I actually really enjoyed. And so then when dad was like, hey, I can't physically help you, I was like, you know what? That's fine. We can sit this one out. It was just people were really competitive. I I was just like so afraid that my animal was going to like I don't run away, misbehave, die. Like, I just did
Hmm.
not find it to be like, I loved working
Well,
with them up
mhm.
until showing them. And then I found showing them to be very scary.
Well, and like to be fair, like dad didn't have a showing background. Like I think
Yeah.
raising livestock is different from showing them. And so it's like we always just like halter broke them and walked them around. But I didn't understand like my first year, I didn't know anything about like the stance where you're supposed to
Mm-mm.
stand. Now like through showmanship, watching that as a little kid, it gave me some tips and tricks. And I
Yeah.
literally it was just like people would be like, "Oh, you have to have your comb in this pocket and you need to do this and that." But it was
Yeah.
like I didn't have any practice with it. And so it's like every year I was very much like thrown in the
Yeah.
ring
It is kind
and
of funny. And I noticed it much, much later, looking at the families that have like livestock backgrounds in the sense that they're like on a dairy operation, they're on a beef operation, and then the kids that have like a showing background, because they're just like very vastly different. And that's what I really
yeah.
appreciated showing at like our county fair versus like we never showed at the state fair. But like if I found our little tiny
Also,
county fair anxiety inducing, I would have just like died at the state fair.
yeah, like literally, in like one time I got first in my class. Like that's the
That
best I
literally
ever
never
did was
happened to me.
it only happened to me once, but this is the crazy thing. And this is why like some people are like we don't like county fairs because some kids get screwed because basically like the people that like sponsor the I'm saying this wrong at the auction when you're selling these
Mm,
animals like if you're a farmer there's all these companies that are trying to buy your animal because it's basically like companies showing farmers like goodwill
yeah.
and not to flex on the hose but our dad's very well liked by the community and
Yeah.
people were always trying to bid on our animals and straight up one year we got like a lot of sympathy money
Yeah, no, straight up dad didn't
so
have a
my
hip. This is, let's just talk about the worst
dad
year
didn't
of
have a
all of
hip.
our lives. Our
Oh,
grandma
that's
passed
crazy.
away.
Mine was 2019, but okay. Oh,
Okay.
and the dog died.
The our grandma
Yeah.
passed, so dad went in to have a surgery. They said, "Sir, your hip has to go and nothing can replace it except for the cement block." And we were all like,
Yeah.
"That's crazy. We didn't know that could happen." And so he was just like,
Didn't know that was a
at
possibility.
home, no hip. Me, never worked with my animals one time that whole year. Because we were just like in a weird unknown. And then,
No, we were in a very scary unknown. I think also too, it was like we weren't working with our animals, and then it was like, oh no, now we have these unruly animals. I almost died that year. Oh my
yeah,
god, that
well,
was the
and
year
mom's
that
mom passed away, which was
it
horrible.
and it was like a
And
long battle with Alzheimer's. That was horrible.
our childhood dog died, which, as you know from the last couple of episodes, doesn't happen all that frequently.
No, we have dogs for forever, and this was the best dog we ever
The best
had. No,
dog, and it
well,
was like a really
yeah,
well, besides Saley, obviously, well, and
yeah,
Sophie,
golden
uh,
retriever named
just
Chloe,
like the
the best
perfect dog
dog,
died.
so good,
And it was quick.
died
It
of
was
cancer.
cancer was put down. Our brother's birthday happens the week of the fair. We got Chloe on my brother's birthday, and she passed away the day after. So it was the week of the fair. The
Yeah.
worst summer of our lives.
So, so to recap, grandmother dead, dog dead, Cody not having a good birthday, dad no hip.
So
So,
naturally,
and
everyone's
like
like, all these poor kids with bad
yeah,
animals.
no, and shout out to me. Like I was doing hogs that year because I was 4 years older than you, so like I was like helping you a little bit, like but like it was the blind leading the blind, and like people were talking about how much the rations and you got to change them up for the fair, and like we were children, we were little babies trying to
And
figure this
I was
out
so,
with our
and
vegetarian
every
mother.
year, I know, and every year my hogs were overweight. And like, you have to do like crazy things to like, you can do some crazy things for them to lose weight, like cutting water 3 hours before and like whatever. We, once again, don't have a showing background. And also just like are dumb. And also, I was 8. Like,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, like Zoe had to help load up she like loaded her cattle and then had to like help load up my pigs. And then we just like the two of us, two children, drove to the
Went
county
to the fair.
fair.
That should have been illegal. I don't, as a 16-year-old, like, I don't, someone had, Johnny must have had to come to like get the trailer hooked up for me. 'Cause I
Yeah.
didn't even know how to hook up a trailer, but I do remember driving the trailer myself and being like, I should not be
I
allowed to
know.
be doing
And then they're like,
this.
all right, so back up to the barn. And so he was like,
And I
I'm gonna be
cried.
honest with you, I'm 16.
I think I got out. I think I was like, I can't do this. And I think someone backed
I
it
think
out for
someone
us.
backed it in
And
for us.
then,
But well, that's the nice thing is the
yeah.
community came together because they were like, these two girls
No.
are struggling.
No. No. So like, so the community comes together. We get like the hogs unloaded. We get the cows unloaded. And we're like, okay, we're at the fair. We have the fair. The fair goes fine. I remember being like in charge of you, and like there was just a little bit of trauma involved there of like everyone coming up and being like, "Is your dad okay?" And me being like, "I don't know, is he?" And like just like I was trying to parent you at the fair. Mom was working
Yeah.
full time, grieving the dog. She had to deal with the dog.
Yeah,
situation.
no, she was completely grieving her mother and her dog.
She was grieving her mother. She was grieving the dog. We were just trying to survive the fair week. And so the fair gets over and it's like the last day. It's when you do the auction.
Also,
and, like,
just know that we did
people-
terrible, probably last in our class. We never worked with our
Yeah.
animals that summer. It was bad.
It was bad. It was bad. And then we get into the sale ring. I get into the sale ring and my cow and the girl, Jessica Hurst, who just happened to have the same, it was like Kent Hurst. And so we were paired together in the sale ring. And our two cows went for more money than the grand champion cow went
Yeah.
for. And we get out of the sale ring and I'm like a little teary.
Mom's
I'm like, what just
sobbing.
happened? Like my cows went for like double the people before. I was like cash money and paying for college, baby. Jessica comes up to me and like Jessica doesn't have like as much farming community. Like she just got lucky being paired with me. And she was like, thank you so much. I don't know what just happened in there. Thank you so much. And I was like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like I was just here being alive. And then after that,
I know. I just remember I was sitting with
Someone
mom,
else
and
came-
mom was so grateful and just like overwhelmed with gratitude. And like we were all just like in awe of like the community being like bidding each other up. And I think what happened is like two people
and
went in with each
together
other.
on it. Yeah.
And that was like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was just like, I just got chills. It was just like very special and sweet.
It was, and it was like a hard time. And then like even after that, someone else came like to our house and was like, "Hey, I wasn't able to make it to the fair, but like I just want to write your kids checks for their projects too." And it was really a sense of like, oh wow, the community like really showed up for us
Yeah.
during like a really crappy time, and like they didn't even know the extent of like how
Exactly.
crappy it was because like. We also were, they weren't coming up to us and be like, "How's your dad?" And I was like, "You want to hear about all the other trauma?"
No, I know.
No.
No, and it was, I have like very, very nice memories of like people's dads in the barn just like helping me get my pigs to the
Oh my
wash
goodness,
rack.
yes.
Just like
Yeah,
little
people were
things
helping
where
us
you
left and
don't
right.
necessarily think like I couldn't drive. So like every time I needed sawdust or feed, like I either had to ask Zoe or like it was just people really it was nice. People really stepped up in ways that you wouldn't expect, and it was
It was
amazing.
one of those situations where it's like, oh wow, a small town community like really showed up for us, which like felt very special and cool. But anyway, the whole thing I was gonna go for is like, so we had that really lucky like experience, whereas like another kid could not have a farming background, come to the fair, show an animal, put all this work and effort into this, and then they get into the sale ring, and their parents don't work in ag. A company isn't trying to like step up to make good connections or something, and so then it's like someone could have seen me have this crazy experience in the sale ring, and then it's like no one's bidding on the next person, which now actually I think they like had implemented a thing where like there was like one company who came in and was like, for like every kid will at least get this minimum. So like whatever the bid is, if it's below a certain amount, we will pay to get every kid to this amount, which I think is like great. I think there's other people that are out there that are like, oh, this isn't the real world. I'm like, okay,
It's not the real world. You're 8.
Yeah,
Like,
like these are children. It doesn't have to be the real world yet.
yeah.
Um,
And also, like,
but
use this as an
yeah,
opportunity to teach the 8-year-old that the real world doesn't have to be hard. It
yeah,
doesn't have to
yeah. That
be.
people will like show up. That's a good
And you
way
know
to
what?
spin
Maybe
it
that
too.
8-year-old will show up for a future kid.
I know. Now I need to go to the fair because I wanted to go last year and bid on because I have a few of like my cheerleaders
Yeah.
do alpacas. But I was like I should go and like bid
Oh
on
my
like
gosh,
a
I
kid's
just
thing.
remembered something. The alpacas. So because you don't, sorry, I'm getting Amtrak notifications and I'm afraid it has to do with my upcoming trip tomorrow, but everything looks fine. Um, because you don't sell the alpacas at the end, they auction off a gallon of alpaca milk and like alpaca fur, and then like the kids divide that like amongst themselves. I think.
Uh-huh.
I think that's how it happens. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And like, there's something. So they're all in there with their matching polos and their bandanas, and they're just like holding a gallon of milk, and
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh.
like
Well, and now
so
and like
sweet.
I think also too for a little while they stopped having animals in the ring, so the kids would just go into the ring, and then I think there was like a debate on that because they're
Hmm.
like I think it just like highlighted the fact that you're really just bidding on a kid.
Yeah,
Which I see, but then also it's like the sale always took the entire day.
yeah,
Animals would get overheated and it was like it wasn't good.
yeah. What I learned about
But
Junior Fair
yeah.
Board is no matter what it is, big, small, new, old, change, it will be like someone will cause a stink about it. So my when
Yeah.
I was Junior Fair Board president, um,
Oh my goodness. I didn't realize you were president. Oh yeah, because you were like
yeah,
see, I was a senior in college when Kenzie was a senior in high school and I didn't really know what was going on. And like
I was running our
I wasn't
town.
in
I
any
was
clubs. I wasn't
practically the
doing
governor,
anything.
the mayor.
And like Kenzie's like, I'm the president of this. I'm on the board of this. I do
Yeah.
this. I have these 45 internships lined up. And I was like, what is going on
No,
at
it was too
home?
much. But anyways, we were trying like people weren't giving their thank you notes, and we had this idea that when we have dummy trophies, they're just like generic, look like a overall grand champion trophy. When you win, you like take your picture with that dummy trophy, you give it back, and then when you give your thank you note, you get your real trophy. And I was like, this is so great, so smart, big brain energy. We're gonna get so many thank you notes. Everyone's gonna love me. And I'm not kidding. You would have thought I went in and murdered everyone's alpaca. Like people were showing up in masses to our junior fair board meetings, being like, the kids work so hard for this moment and the moment where they get their trophy, and like, and people being like, parents like really laying into me who was 17 at the time, being like, you destroyed my kid's life. And that's how I know, like, no matter
And
what you
like,
do,
and they were,
people will be mad.
and they were getting their trophies. They were, and this
Yeah,
is
you
why,
just had to
no,
like
this is why I
write,
have
you literally, you
trauma.
just had to be like, hey, thanks for donating this trophy, local community vendor. Like, that was
Yeah,
it.
no. So I had like we had the bridal shower, and I was so stressed though because I waited 1 week until I wrote all my thank you notes. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, I have to get these thank you notes out. And I was like, why do I feel so much anxiety around this? Because I was like, they have to get out because it was drilled into my head as a kid that like you sell your animal, those thank you notes better be in the mail.
Yeah.
Get them in the mail. And like I would always like do a very long like thank you so much, this project has impacted me in these ways, blah 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 blah. Because also sometimes like you receive a thank you note and you're like, oh, this someone was just like
Yeah.
getting these out the door.
Yeah. I just want it to be
With that to
known
be said, you have a
that
thank you note
I
in the
went
mail.
to the senior fair board. They said, Kenzie, junior fair board president, we're not getting enough thank you notes. And I was only trying to increase the number of thank you notes. I was not trying to ruin anyone's lives.
Well, I thought it was necessary.
It is
Like I thought it was
to get your
mandatory,
like
but like
voucher, but like
uh-huh.
if you got a trophy, you just like gotta keep the trophy. And we
Yeah,
weren't getting trophy
interesting.
thank you notes. Who knows? I mean, who even? I haven't been in the fair in maybe like 6 or 7 years, so I have no idea what the happenings are.
Yeah.
But
I know. Yeah, last year
that's
I
what the
ended up not
happenings were when
being.
I was there.
I wasn't around because I was like, oh, I would like to go to the sale and like give back. But I ended up not being free. But like, I think I need to make a point of it this year to do that, just because like people gave me good money, and it's like it'd be nice to.
Definitely pay it forward.
And then also, then it's like, hey, Farm with Zoe,
Yeah, get your name
you
out
know,
there.
because that's what they're doing. Because that's what they're doing. Because the people that have
Yeah.
the signs are like wearing their brand, and they're like, look at me being a supporter of the community. I'd love to do that, be a supporter, but then I'd be like, look, I support my thing, and then I couldn't say what county I'm in because then people would show up to the fair.
Yeah. What's so funny is, like, I don't know why this stuck out to me, but one of my good friends, Sabra, showed chickens. And after you sell, like, to me, it's like this abstract. Like, you sell, the seed company buys it, and then the cow just, like, disappears. And, like,
Yeah, because like really, the seed company's giving it to someone else.
yes, because it's like, and with dairy beef eaters specifically, they have to get fed out for another year and a half or so. And so, like, it's all this abstract idea of the fair. But with chickens, it's like very, like, straight and forward. They give you money, you give them the chicken. And one year, Tom bought Sabra's chicken. And when you sell it, like, you go up and you shake their hand and you're like, thank you so much for buying my animal. And if you're a chicken person, you have to say, how would you like your chicken prepared? Quartered, whole, defeathered, alive? Like, it's like a menu of items.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there listening, and I was like, no, this is like cut and dry. Like, you can just buy a chicken.
What did he take? What option
I
did he
don't
take?
remember. I just like couldn't believe that. Like, it was so,
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to symbolically do the alpaca because,
yeah.
or like, what I can't have happen is like accidentally come home with a goat. You know?
Yeah.
No, I think the goats they don't actually sell them, right?
There
I
was
think they keep the
one.
goats.
There was a girl on our 4-H club, which I was also president of, and she got really attached to her goat, like really attached, and she was pretty young, and so she sold her goat, could not stop crying, and then the guy was like, "Have your goat back." Like, I'm not here to break hearts. I'm not here to like crush.
I'm not here to
So-
ruin your
And
day.
so she got to take her goat home, and she raised it as
You
a
know, her
pet.
parents were like, finally, this goat's out of here. And then the guy's like, here's back. And then they're like, we're going to have this. Goats can live like
and
for
then she
forever.
like, yeah, and then she got to keep the goat as a pet. But it was just like, that would be me. Like, if I bought a goat and then I saw a 9-year-old nonstop sobbing the second she leaves the arena, I'd be like, you can keep your goat.
That's so funny. Also, I mean, we did keep Peaches for
Yeah, so that
an
was that
additional 10
same
years.
summer. That was the worst summer of our lives. I always got 3 hogs, and you can only take 2. Sometimes I would take that third for a carcass, which is like so gross. But the carcass shows they judge them on hoof, and then they judge them on rail, which is as terrible as it sounds. And that year, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And Peaches, I didn't walk my pigs enough. And that's something I had to live with for the rest of my adult life. And that day, we were trying to get them to lose weight because they were overweight. So Zoe and I were out back making them walk around in like horrible heat. And Peaches overheated. And pigs don't sweat. So overheating is a pretty big deal. And Mom nursed Peaches back to life. And Mom was like, I've seen enough death. No more death this summer. And she kept Peaches, and Peaches like lived whatever, like 10 more years.
And then we got Zippy because
we
Mom
got
was
Zaylee.
also like, I need something.
and
wow.
then Dad got a hip, which was great.
And then Dad got a hip, and then he got that hip taken back out to see. Because for me, my most traumatic summer of my life is the summer of 2019, and when Dad had his second hip removed.
I was living in DC at that time, right?
Yeah. Okay. So straight up, Donnie passed away. So
Horrible.
Donnie was the guy who worked for my dad. He hired him when I was born. And then he passed away when I was 23 years old. So that had happened. And then dad was out. So I took, in June of 19, I took dad for a routine hip thing. And actually, we knew things were bad because like like a couple weeks before Donnie passed, my dad was having really bad hip problems, and he was like having a hard time walking. And we're like, okay, something's bad. And then like the week of Donnie's funeral, it went away. It was fine. He was like able to be a pallbearer, which like he was concerned about. I don't know if that was just like God or like what great timing. But like he was fine, and it kind of got better. And then like the next summer, I take him to a routine appointment, and they're like, your hip has to come out. And he's like, okay, like when are we going to schedule it for it? They're like, no, like right now. And I remember being in the doctor's office with Dad, and they were saying this, and it was like one of those times where you're like, oh, this is not real life, but also so much real life. And they're like, yeah, it has to come out now. And my dad goes, Zoe, are you going to tell Mom about this? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, I'm not. And then he looks at the doctor. He's like, you're going to have to explain this to my wife. like as if this is this doctor's problem. Like he's obviously just looking out for what's best for Dad, but we were too scared to call Mom. And so we call Mom, and I'm like on speakerphone. I'm like, hey Mom, we need to talk. And she's like, I have 15 pizzas. They're having an office thing. She's like, I have to get all these pizzas to this thing. Can I call you back? And I was like, no, Mom, this is actually an emergency. You're going to have to talk to this doctor. And she gets on the phone with the doctor, and the doctor like explains what's going on. And she's like, but he was just at home. You're telling me he can't come home and we can't schedule this for like 2 days from now? And the doctor was like, no, this is an emergency. And so Dad and I are like dazed and confused.
Dad doesn't even have a phone charger at this point.
Dad, no. So we walk out of that room, and they're like, you're going to have to go we're going to establish. So we're at like Cleveland Clinic. They're like, we're going to go get you a hospital bed. And we're like, Jesus Christ. So
meanwhile,
we exit the thing.
I am at George Washington's Mount Vernon, having myself a day trip.
Oh my God.
Experiencing George Washington's house.
So Dad and I walk down, we're like dazed and confused and this is a massive hospital. And so we're like, okay, we have to go get checked in. And Dad's like, I don't have a phone charger. He didn't have clothes. Like obviously, he didn't have anything. So we go down to the gift shop, buy a insanely expensive, like crappy phone charger. Like they don't have anything he needs, but, so we buy him a phone charger. We walk over to like where you get when you go in for surgery, you like go and you check in. And so we walk in there, and we're like, we have to get this man checked in. And they're like, when's your surgery? What's your appointment date? Give us your paperwork. And we're like, no. Like we were just upstairs, and they just said, get to this hospital, we're doing surgery. And so then the lady was like, that's not how surgery works. Like, if
and you're like, yeah,
surgery,
I know.
You'd be like, you need to go to the emergency room if that's the thing. And we were like, listen, we were upstairs. He said so then they're like, well, we don't have any beds in the infection department where you need to be. So they had talked to the doctor we just spoken to, and they're like, you just have to get him a bed anywhere we're doing the surgery. And so they get him a bed on a different floor. We go and we eat in the cafeteria, which I think we did. Actually, I think we ate in the cafeteria before we checked in. Because also, like, you're not supposed to have surgery on an empty stomach, like, on a full stomach.
Dad's like, I'm going to eat a Chipotle burrito.
Yeah, so we go and we eat. The food at the Cleveland Clinic is absolutely delicious.
It's so good.
Like, that's a one thing. And it's like, but like,
remember
your
that
world's
pudding
falling
cup
apart.
I got?
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to like reference photos. But so we go eat, then we get checked in, and like the surgery is gonna be at like 5 a.m. We know it's not gonna be actually like that day or whatever. We go get him checked in, and then it's like we get him up to his room, and Dad's like, you can go home now. And I was like, what are you talking about? I just like, and we're not close to Cleveland. I had a trek to go back home. And he's like, just go home. I'm just going to be here. Like, I've had some food. Like, I'm just gonna watch TV. I'll get my surgery in the morning. Your mom will come up then. And I
That's like,
think
this is a
actually, like,
vacation.
yeah, and I think I can't remember if Dad spent that first night alone or if Mom ended up coming
I
up
bet
that
mom
night.
came up.
I think she came up. I think she
I'm
delivered the
surprised
I
mom
think
wasn't in
I
the
think
surgery room.
Yeah. No, I think she delivered the pizzas and got on the road. And then I think like she was driving to Cleveland as I was leaving Cleveland. But I just remember like I get in the car, I call Tanner, and I'm like, you're never going to believe what's happened to me today. Have you ever driven really far away with your dad and then you've driven home without him? Like, it was crazy. And I stopped at a Taco Bell and I got Taco Bell and then I cried while eating Taco Bell on my drive home, which like Taco Bell is not a good driving food
No.
because I was having tacos and I just remember like crying and eating tacos and being like, I just left my dad in Cleveland and now like I don't know what's going on. And so then Mom and I were like back and forth for a few days. And did you
I
fly home for
did.
that surgery?
I flew. No,
The first
no, I
surgery or a
flew
different surgery?
the surgery he got his hip back in. I flew home for.
Okay. So yeah, so Dad gets his hip out and we were like back and forth a little bit on like me and my mom being with him because he was so drugged up that like even being in a great facility, like he had to have advocates for him because like like things were just kind of getting messed up and it was like he was having a very abnormal surgery. So like normally when they're like, oh, hip patient, this is what we do.
Yeah,
It's like,
I
no,
remember
this
it,
man
like,
doesn't have a hip.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, it looks like you had a hip replacement." People usually start walking after 2 days, and Dad's like, "That's crazy. I have a cement block, but also I'm on drugs, so I can't really say that."
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was super drugged up and like he kept needing to get like blood and
yeah.
it was just not a great experience. At one point it was like 3 a.m. Mom texted me because like they upload the vitals like automatically to the website and so like through the night she'd be checking his vitals and she was like, he needs another bag of blood. And I was like, I'm in the room with him. No one's told us he needs a bag of blood. She's like, I just looked at his vital. He needs a bag of blood. So I have to go
Yeah.
find the nurse in the middle of the night and be like, hey, my mom called and said that we need a bag of blood. And then I proceeded to pass out because I have a very weak stomach.
Mom, the
And
pilot,
then
and also the
so
surgeon.
yeah, so I pass out. They get me into the chair in Dad's room. They're like, with your pulse, you need to be in the hospital yourself. And I was like, no, listen, this just happens to me. And then the doctors, because it was like literally doctors running towards me. It was the best time to pass out if you're going to pass out. They're like, you'd have to be an insane athlete to have this low of pulse. And I was like, I do work out. Like maybe I just have an insane pulse. You're complimenting me on my pulse. And they're like, you like legally we should be advising you to go into the hospital right now. And I was like, I can't be doing that. My dad needs a bag of blood. I'm at the hospital. This is fine.
Yeah.
Literally, if I pass out again, you'll fix me. I'm not worried about getting checked in here. So then I had to sign a release being like, I'm not consenting to treatment. I'm fine on my own.
Yeah.
But they did give me a Gatorade for free, which was
Nice.
nice. And then like through my passing out, I was like, listen, my dad needs blood. And they checked his things and they're like, oh, wow, he really does need blood. So
And you're
we
like,
got the blood.
yeah, our doctor back home was checking his vitals at 2 in the morning.
My doctor mom,
My doctor
who's an
mom.
actuary.
I know. My mom who's a pilot and also a doctor.
And then it ended up just being like a traumatic summer to fall. Like that was a very long process. We don't
Yeah.
need to get into like the trauma there, but that was my bad summer. And there was other bad things that happened then, but it's like all I can't remember what it was, but I just do remember one time it was like Dad was still in the hospital and I was mowing the yard. And a guy who works for us, George, who's like 86, he was probably 84 at the time, rolls in. And I'm just crying and mowing the yard, like just tears streaking down my face. He pulls in, I stop, I get off the lawnmower, tears everywhere. And he's like, hey, just like coming to check in. And I was like, everything's fine. I was like, everything's not fine. And he was just kind of shook his head and like kind of looked around and was like, just like let me know whatever you need, like I'm gonna go, because it's like me and this guy who like, you know, like we weren't trying to have like a heart to heart. I was not in a space to have a heart to heart or anything, but it's like then he left and I like wiped my tears a little bit, got back on the lawnmower, continued to cry some more because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. No, that was That was
But
tough.
honestly, once we got through that, I was like, I can conquer the world. Like,
I was working at the Holocaust Museum at the time, and could only support so much. But I did come home for when he came home, and I stayed in a very scary hotel with mom. But I know you and mom suffered that summer because she took you to like a resort, not a resort, but like
oh my
a
gosh, that's why we
retreat.
did that.
Yeah, because you guys both survived
We
2019.
had a horrible
Boom,
summer.
March,
But then the funny thing,
COVID.
which thank goodness Dad's thing happened before COVID, because if it had happened during COVID, we wouldn't have been allowed in. They would not have been giving
Yeah.
him his bags of blood. Mom would have had gone into residency, become a doctor, to get in
No,
that room.
literally, mom would have
In the
like
mix in.
put herself in the hospital room and then been like, I want the room next to that man. I don't know what she would have done, but like, she
I
would
don't
have
know.
found a way in.
She would have figured it out, but like, thank goodness it happened before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, because so mom was like, we're going to a spa because we got through this, and then like COVID happened, and it was like couldn't go to spa. Then we go to the spa, and health and wellness retreat. I'm feeling great. This is like a yoga retreat. This is like bougie. I'm feeling my best self. We get on the plane to go home, and I'm like, I have a scratchy throat. Boom, got COVID. But we're gonna have to wrap it there because it's already been
I
an
know.
hour.
Here's the thing about
And
us:
I
is
just love.
you can't get us down. We're still
No,
here. We have a
you started this.
podcast.
You started this episode, and you're like, I'm having a bad time, and I just want to say, just talking about the amount of trauma we have lived through.
Oh, I
Means
know.
that probably whatever's going on. I mean, I don't know the extent of your
No,
problems this week.
100%. Like,
but-
honestly, that puts everything in perspective. Being like, you know what? It's not the summer of 2009. Or whatever
It's
that
too bad
year
that we've had
was.
our best episode while your audio's been trash.
I know. It's gonna. I really hope I can, like, salvage some of this. Anyways.
It's fine. Edit it in post.
I'm just gonna
I
literally
believe
call
in you.
this episode, like, Listen to Us Trauma
Trauma Dump Central. But also fair. The fair is
So
so
much fair.
wholesome. Are the worst 2 summers of our lives.
Anyways, it's been.
Also, I can
Oh my God,
monetize
I
on
go to
YouTube
Paris
now.
tomorrow.
You go to Paris tomorrow. I've monetized my YouTube. This is my thing. Do we throw this up on my channel and then just start raking in money off of this? bad
Sure,
boy?
I don't care.
We can talk business
Do you want
later.
me to send you my video and then you can edit it?
No, that'd be insane. Never mind. But you could upload it to. We'll talk offline.
Oh my God. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.